The 2024 election were in full swing, and things have never been more important for small businesses across the US. As business owners get ready for another Trump presidency, one big question hangs in the air. What would a second Trump term mean for the heart of the American economy? His first term saw big tax cuts, lots of deregulation, and a focus on protecting American trade. This left small businesses both excited and a bit worried. Now, with rising prices and problems getting supplies, Trump's economic plans are being looked at very closely again. Trump's fans say his pro-business policies, especially the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, really boosted the economy. They point to more jobs and increased investment, but others say Trump's policies mostly helped big companies and rich people, while small businesses struggled. They say his trade wars and unpredictable policy changes caused more problems than they solved. We'll look at the possible good things about his policies, like deregulation and tax cuts, and also the possible bad things like trade wars and protectionism. The 2024 election gives Donald Trump a chance to rewrite his economic story. His message is simple. He's the businessman who can bring back jobs, increase wages, and get American factories working again. Trump's economic plan for a second term has familiar ideas: deregulation, tax cuts, and protectionist trade policies. However, critics say Trump's policies are a recipe for disaster, warning of increased inequality and environmental damage. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, or TCJA, of 2017 is one of the most important things Trump did in his first term. This big tax change permanently cut the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. People who like the TCJA say it boosted the economy and made businesses more confident. However, others say the TCJA mostly helped big companies and rich people, making the gap between rich and poor even bigger. Getting rid of rules is a key part of Trump's economic thinking and strategy. He says too many rules stop innovation, hinder progress, and cost businesses too much money. During his first term, Trump got rid of lots of rules across many different industries. Supporters say this boosted the economy significantly. However, critics say getting rid of so many rules was bad for public health and the environment. One of the most controversial parts of Trump's economic plan is his use of tariffs to protect American businesses. During his first term, Trump put tariffs on things coming from China and other countries, starting trade wars. Trump says tariffs are needed to protect American jobs and industries. However, critics say Trump's tariffs didn't work and hurt American businesses and shoppers more than they helped. Deregulation, which means getting rid of rules, is a key part of Donald Trump's economic thinking. Trump's supporters often point to the Small Business Administration as needing to be streamlined. They say the SBA's lending processes are often bogged down in paperwork. However, critics of deregulation warn against getting rid of rules without thinking about why they were there in the first place. They argue that many regulations are important for public health and fair treatment of workers. Finding the right balance between helping businesses and protecting workers and shoppers is tricky. One of the most argued about areas of deregulation is labor laws, the rules about employers and employees. Trump has long said some labor regulations are too much for businesses. People who support deregulation say easing labor regulations would allow businesses to create more jobs and increase wages. However, opponents say weakening labor laws would be bad for workers, leading to lower wages and unsafe workplaces. The debate over labor laws often comes down to different values. Those who favor deregulation prioritize economic growth, while those who support strong labor laws prioritize worker protection. Trump's energy policy is another area where deregulation has been important. Trump, a big supporter of American energy independence, has rolled back regulations on oil and gas exploration. Supporters say his energy policies have boosted American energy production and lowered energy prices. However, critics say Trump's pursuit of energy dominance has damaged the environment and public health. They point to the rollback of environmental regulations as a major setback in the fight against climate change. The debate over energy policy often focuses on the balance between economic growth and protecting the environment. The impact of deregulation on small businesses is complicated. Reducing regulations can lower costs and make things simpler. However, some regulations protect workers and the environment. For small businesses, the important thing is to find the right balance between having fewer rules and being responsible. This means carefully thinking about the possible good and bad things about deregulation. Getting this balance right is essential for a good future for everyone. Tariffs, taxes on imported goods, have become a key part of Donald Trump's economic policy. Trump says tariffs are essential to protect American jobs and industries from unfair foreign competition. Supporters point to the decline of American manufacturing as evidence that tariffs are necessary. However, critics argue that tariffs increase prices for shoppers and costs for businesses. The use of tariffs is a big change from the free trade policies that have been common for decades. As the United States engages in a trade war with China and other countries, things are uncertain for small businesses caught in the middle. While tariffs are often said to protect domestic industries, they can have knock-on effects throughout the economy. One immediate impact of tariffs is higher prices for imported goods. This can hurt businesses that rely on imported materials or parts. As well as higher prices, tariffs can also lead to shortages of essential goods. Also, tariffs can cause other countries to retaliate, harming American exporters and ultimately hurting American jobs. In any trade war, there will be winners and losers. While some industries may benefit from tariffs, others are likely to suffer. Industries that produce goods directly competing with imports may see a short-term boost. However, this benefit can be short-lived if tariffs lead to retaliation from trading partners. On the other hand, industries that rely on imported goods or that export a lot of their products are likely to suffer. The impact of tariffs on small businesses can be especially hard, as they often don't have the resources to cope with higher costs or find new suppliers. In uncertain times for trade, small businesses need to be proactive in developing strategies to manage risks. One strategy is to diversify supply chains by finding new suppliers. Another strategy is to explore new markets for their products. Small businesses can also think about passing on some of the increased costs of tariffs to customers. Finally, small businesses should stay informed about developments in trade policy and talk to policymakers. By staying informed and engaged, small businesses can better prepare themselves for uncertain times in trade. Section 1. Tax relief redux, a second bite at the cherry. Tax cuts have long been a key part of Republican economic policy, and Donald Trump is no different. His administration has consistently pushed for reducing the tax burden on both individuals and businesses, arguing that this approach stimulates economic growth and prosperity. During his first term, Trump signed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, which reduced taxes for businesses and individuals. This landmark legislation was touted as a major victory for the administration, promising to unleash economic potential and create a more favorable business environment. As he tries for a second term, Trump is again promising significant tax relief, especially for small businesses, which he sees as the drivers of economic growth. He believes that by lowering taxes, small businesses will have more capital to invest in their operations, hire more employees, and contribute to the overall economy. Trump argues that reducing taxes will boost investment, create jobs, and increase wages, ultimately benefiting all Americans. He often emphasizes that a thriving business sector leads to a robust job market, which in turn raises the standard of living for everyone. He often points to the economic growth that followed the TCJA as evidence that his tax policies work. According to Trump, the tax cuts led to increased business investments, higher consumer spending, and overall economic economic expansion, which he views as a validation of his economic strategy. However, critics of Trump's tax policies argue that they mostly benefit wealthy individuals and corporations, and don't do much to help working families or address income inequality. They contend that the tax cuts disproportionately favor the rich, widening the gap between the wealthy and the middle class. They say the TCJA significantly increased the national debt without delivering the promised economic benefits. Critics point out that the surge in the national debt could have long-term negative consequences for the economy, including higher interest rates and reduced government spending on essential services. As the debate over tax policy continues, small businesses have to deal with the uncertainty of potential tax changes, weighing the possible benefits of tax relief against the potential risks of increased deficits and economic instability. Business owners are left to navigate a complex landscape, trying to plan for the future while remaining adaptable to whatever changes may come. Section 2. The Corporate Tax Conundrum, a delicate balancing act. One of the most significant parts of the TCJA was a reduction in the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. This dramatic cut was intended to stimulate the economy by giving businesses more capital to invest in growth and development. Trump argues that this reduction made American businesses more competitive globally, leading to increased investment and job creation. By lowering the tax burden, companies could allocate more resources to innovation, infrastructure, and expanding their workforce. Supporters of corporate tax cuts argue that they encourage businesses to invest in new equipment, hire more workers, and expand their operations. They believe that these investments not only boost the companies themselves, but also have a ripple effect throughout the economy. They say these investments lead to economic growth and job creation that benefit the whole economy. When businesses thrive, they argue, everyone from employees to consumers to local communities reaps the rewards. However, critics of corporate tax cuts argue that they often benefit wealthy shareholders and CEOs at the expense of workers and the government. They point out that the additional profits generated by tax cuts frequently end up in the pockets of top executives and investors. They say corporations often use tax savings to buy back their own stock or pay dividends to shareholders, rather than investing in ways that create jobs or raise wages. This practice, they argue, does little to stimulate the broader economy and can exacerbate income inequality. The debate over corporate tax rates is often seen as a choice between competitiveness and fairness. On one hand, lower taxes can make a country more attractive to businesses, potentially leading to economic growth. On the other hand, there is a need to ensure that the benefits of such growth are distributed equitably. Finding the right balance between these is a complex challenge, as policymakers must weigh the potential benefits of lower corporate taxes against the potential costs of reduced government revenue and increased inequality. Striking this balance requires careful consideration of both short-term gains and long-term impacts on society. Section 3. Trickle-down or trickle-up, the impact of tax cuts. The debate over tax policy often focuses on who benefits from tax cuts. Do they benefit the wealthy at the expense of the poor and middle class? Or does everyone ultimately benefit through economic growth? Supporters of trickle-down economics argue that tax cuts for businesses and wealthy individuals stimulate economic growth, which ultimately benefits everyone. They say that when businesses and wealthy individuals have more money, they invest and spend more, creating jobs and raising wages for everyone. However, critics of trickle-down economics argue that it's a flawed theory that hasn't worked. They say that tax cuts for the wealthy mostly benefit the wealthy, while doing little to stimulate economic growth or benefit the poor and middle class. The impact of tax cuts is a complex issue with no easy answers. However, it's important for policymakers to consider the impact of tax policy on everyone, not just the wealthy, when making tax laws. Section 4. Taxing times. Navigating the uncertain terrain of tax policy. In uncertain political and economic times, small businesses face a tough challenge in navigating the complex and ever-changing world of tax policy. The landscape is constantly shifting, with new regulations and laws being introduced frequently, making it difficult for business owners to keep up. One of the biggest challenges for small businesses is not knowing what will happen with tax policy. This uncertainty can create a sense of instability, making it hard for business owners to plan for the future. They are often left wondering how new tax laws will impact their bottom line. With frequent changes in tax laws and regulations, it can be difficult for small businesses to plan for the future and make informed decisions about hiring, investment, and expansion. The constant need to adapt to new rules can be both time-consuming and costly. Another challenge is how complicated the tax code is, which can be overwhelming for small business owners who often don't have the resources of larger corporations to hire tax experts or navigate complex regulations. The intricacies of the tax code can lead to mistakes and missed opportunities for tax savings. To deal with these challenges, small businesses need to stay informed about changes in tax policy, seek professional advice when needed, and advocate for tax policies that support their growth and success. Staying updated can involve attending seminars, consulting with financial advisors, and participating in advocacy groups. By being proactive about tax planning, small businesses can minimize their tax bill, maximize their after-tax income, and focus on what they do best: growing their businesses and creating jobs. Proactive planning includes regular reviews of financial documents, celebrating milestones, and fostering a collaborative team environment to tackle tax challenges together. Funding the dream: access to capital for small businesses. For small businesses, access to money is what keeps their dreams alive. It's what allows them to grow, to innovate, and to get through tough times. However, getting enough funding is often a big hurdle for entrepreneurs, especially those from disadvantaged backgrounds or with limited assets. Traditional bank loans can be difficult to get, especially for new businesses with little history or those in risky industries. This is where other lenders, like online lenders, crowdfunding platforms, and microfinance institutions, have come in to help. Yet even with these other options, getting money remains a significant challenge for many small businesses. High interest rates, short repayment terms, and strict rules can create a cycle of debt and limit growth. The question then becomes, what should the government do to ensure that small businesses can get the money they need to thrive? A helping hand or a handout? The role of government in small business lending. The government's role in small business lending is a hot topic. Some argue for a hands-off approach, believing that the free market is the best way to decide who gets credit, and that government intervention messes things up and creates moral hazard. Others believe the government should do more, arguing that it has a responsibility to ensure fairness, and that small businesses, often lacking the influence of larger corporations, need support to access affordable capital. Programs like the Small Business Administration Loan Program, which provides government-backed loans to eligible small businesses, are often seen as examples of successful government intervention. These programs can help reduce risk for lenders, making them more likely to lend to small businesses that might otherwise be refused. However, critics argue that government lending programs can be inefficient, bureaucratic, and influenced by politics. They say a better approach is to create regulations that encourage private investment in small businesses and competition in the lending market. The Trump equation: weighing the risks and rewards. Donald Trump's potential return to the White House is a complicated situation for small businesses, with both potential upsides and downsides. His pro-business talk, especially his focus on deregulation and tax relief, appeals to many entrepreneurs who want fewer rules. The possibility of fewer regulations, along with the prospect of lower taxes, is attractive to small business owners always looking for a competitive edge. However, Trump's unpredictable nature, his liking for protectionist trade policies, and the potential for increased national debt from tax cuts create a lot of uncertainty. The possibility of trade wars, which could disrupt supply chains and increase costs, is a big worry for small businesses that rely on global trade. The challenge for small businesses is to carefully weigh these potential upsides against the downsides, to look beyond the campaign promises and analyze the potential real-world impact of Trump's economic policies. Charting a course: small business navigation in a Trumpian sea. Navigating the potentially choppy waters of a second Trump presidency will require small businesses to be proactive and strategic. Staying informed about policy changes, talking to industry associations and policymakers, and diversifying supply chains are just a few of the strategies small businesses can use to manage risks and make the most of potential opportunities. Building resilience into their business models, exploring alternative funding options, and focusing on innovation and efficiency will be crucial for small businesses to weather potential economic storms. Also, talking to policymakers and advocating for policies that support small business growth and stability will be essential in shaping a business environment that helps them succeed. The future of small businesses in a second Trump term is uncertain, a mix of possible good things and potential problems. However, by approaching this uncertainty with their eyes open, a proactive spirit, and a willingness to adapt, small businesses can chart a course towards continued growth and prosperity. Thank you for watching the Impact Library, and don't forget to subscribe.